Hello everyone, my name is Jan and I'd like to show you how to fly gliders in X-Plane 12 today. So let's get going. We'll start with one of the two ways of getting your glider into the air, and that is the airplane tow. But before we start, let's go over a few basic things that you need to know when you fly gliders in X-Plane. Weight and balance is an important subject, and of course, you can fly the ASK21 by yourself, and you can fly it with two people. And I think they have this wrong. The passenger front, pilot aft should be the other way around. If you're just by yourself, you would sit in the front, and that would be the pilot in the front, and the passenger would sit in the back if that was the case, because you can see if I sit the pilot in the aft, then we are out of limits center of gravity wise. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. If you have two people, then it's okay. But if you're just by yourself, like I'm simulating now, you want to be the passenger in the front, even though you are the pilot. And another thing important in glider flying, or especially important, is of course setting up the weather. I have set up custom or manually entered weather just to demonstrate some things. Of course, you can use real weather too, but then you have to, of course, look for the right conditions to fly gliders in, especially having thermals and or ridge lift. You would need wind for the ridge lift, and of course you would need the correct thermal conditions, which means scattered cumulus clouds. You would need a warm temperature, not too much wind, not a high cloud cover blocking the sun. X-Plane does take these things into account. Of course, it's not taken into account if there's a black field on the ground or something like that with that you would look for in real glider flying, but it's trying to emulate some conditions. Now I've set up two levels of wind. You can see there's wind from the north on the ground here with 7 knots, and there's another field of winds at 4,000 feet, which is a little stronger also from the north, and we'll need that to demonstrate the ridge lift. And I've set up some scattered cumulus clouds starting at about 5,000 feet above ground here at Salzburg. I'm at LOWS, Salzburg Airport, and that's just on the northern ridge of the Alps. Now, one thing that's easy to miss when you set up your weather for glider flying is the thermal strength. And you need to scroll down this right side here, see? So you can get to the thermal setting, and that's where you set your climb rate under cumulus clouds. And of course, if you want to do the easy mode, you just slide it up to 2,000 feet per minute, and you'll just enter an elevator at the right conditions and just zoom up. More realistic is maybe, the thermals are rarely stronger than maybe 5 meters per second, which would be about 300 meters per minute, which would be 1,000 feet per minute. So we'll just go with like 700. I think that's good soaring conditions. And of course, here in Germany, and especially in the ASK21 glider, which is a German-built glider, the climb rate is measured in meters per second, which of course is physically more appropriate than feet per minute. But of course, most pilots convert it to feet per minute. Okay, so we're set up now. We have this done. And there's another thing that you actually set up while you're in the airplane screen here, and that is the glider start. You can choose the type of glider start here on the bottom of this screen. And when you click edit, you can choose between a winch launch and the tow plane start. And the tow plane, you can basically pick whichever one you want. You can get towed aloft by a McDonnell Douglas MD-82, which makes for a fun ride, but more appropriate is a small single-engine prop plane. I'm taking the L5 Sentinel here, which I found quite enjoyable to be towed aloft by. And then when you click Apply Changes, it takes a second, and that's the screen that greets you. You're here with your glider. And one important thing to note, if you look at the wings there, you can see that the air brakes, the speed brakes are extended. And a unique feature of the ASK21 is that the air brakes and the wheel brakes are connected. And it's this lever here. And if this is pulled back like this, that means they are extended or braking. And that's what you don't want to touch unless you want to get going. But it's important to know that if you just click B for releasing brakes, then these brakes may still be extended. They're usually tied to your throttle, so even though the plane doesn't have an engine, obviously, you can operate these with your thrust lever or your hardware joystick thrust regulator, whatever you're using. Some other instruments in here, you have the trim wheel, basically the trim lever here, and if I trim, you can see it move just slightly, and you can use it with your hands too, but you don't want to do that. And this is to disconnect the towing rope. You can see that here. We'll do that once we are high enough. Some basic instruments, speed and altimeter. What you want to do before you take off is you want to set the altimeter to the correct field elevation. It's 1,411 feet here at Salzburg, so we have that set up. And where the rest is self-explanatory. Without much further ado, let's get going. This is understood, so click it and it's gone, and it says release brakes for takeoff, and that's just what we'll do. I am going to use this lever. I slide it to the front. You can see they are back there, and the plane starts towing. Use the rudder. The wind is coming from the right front here, and initially we use the rudder to stay lined up behind the plane. When the speed is in the green arc, you can start flying, and what you want to do is you want to keep that towing plane just kind of disappearing under your dash right there. And there's a good reason to try to stay behind that towing plane as straight towards the back as you can, because if you stray from this position, you will start pulling the tail of the towing plane to the side or up and down, and those tow pilots really hate that because it sends their plane into a nosedive or into an otherwise unsafe situation. There's another good reason to stay in this position, the just high 6 o'clock, and you can actually move up your view a little bit to make it easier, and that is the wake of the towing plane. I'm going to use the Control M keys here a few times, and when it says wake turbulence up here, you can actually see the wake turbulence of the towing plane, and if you get into these, you can see what happens. See, it does upset the plane, and you need to work to get back into that position, and that's why it's a good idea to stay in the center behind the plane and not stray too far from it. Okay, of course you can just wait as long as you want to until the airplane tows you high enough, and once you're happy with that, I'm going to turn off the wake turbulence here. Once you're happy with that, you click on the yellow button, do it 3 times. That's what glider pilots do to make sure they are disconnected, and turn away from the plane. I'm going back into my default viewing position, and you can see the string here that is taped to the glass, and it shows if you're flying in a coordinated fashion. It always needs to point straight to the back, and if I'm flying uncoordinated, let's turn left and push the left rudder. You can see the wind is coming from the right now, blowing the string to the left, and it says I want more right rudder. So if I put in more right rudder, you can see the string centers again, and that's how you stay coordinated in a glider. And another important thing, of course, is to maintain the correct airspeed. You can see down here there's a little yellow triangle. It points to 90 kilometers per hour, and that is the best gliding speed for the ASK21. At this speed, it can glide with a ratio of 1 to 33. So that means for every 1,000 feet you're high, you can go 30,000 feet far, which of course is an excellent glide ratio. And you just want to make sure that you find a good position for the horizon. I have it between my string and the top of the dash, approximately in the middle. And you can see if I fly like this, then the speed stays close to the ideal airspeed. And you can see I'm already climbing. I found some thermals right here under some clouds, and they don't always exactly coincide with the clouds above you, because of course with the wind the column of rising air is sometimes a little slanted, But it just takes some flying around near the big clouds that you find above you to find good thermals. And another way to help you find these thermals is using the audio. And if you click on the audio on the vertical speed indicator, you don't have to focus on it all the time. You can get this whining sound. And if it's like making a sad sound like right now, that means that the plane is sinking. And you just fly until you hear it getting excited, making a beeping sound, and that's when you found thermals. Let's see if we can find some. While we do that, I'm going to explain the function of the vertical total energy vertical speed indicator a little bit more. The normal vertical speed indicator will just show if the plane is sinking or rising, but this one actually is compensated for speed, because obviously if you take the plane and you dive down, it gains speed, and this will normally make the plane sink. But here you see, as I gain speed, the rate of sink stays approximately the same, because this total energy variometer knows that I'm gaining energy by gaining speed, and vice versa. It will initially show a little bit of a climb, but you can see, oh, now we found good thermals right here. See, found some thermals, and I wait until the beeping almost stops, and then I start a turn. Okay, and I want to try to stay in the thermal. Now, just to finish the sentence about the total energy, this shows you if you're gaining energy, speed and altitude. So it's a good indication, even if you are diving or climbing, of the total energy your plane is gaining, which means if a glider plane is gaining energy, that means it must be in a thermal or in otherwise uprising air column, and that helps it go up. Now you can see we found some good thermals here. The variometer is beeping happily, and if you look at the altitude, we're at 4,900 and climbing. The way to center the thermals here in the X-plane is what I do is I fly around in circles, and I notice which side of my circle is getting a sad beeping, like right now. If I'm heading towards Salzburg here, it's low, and if I'm heading the other way, it's going stronger. So I know which side of my circle I need to offset to. See, this is a good way. So I'm going straight here a little bit, and then I start my turn again, and I'm trying to find the center of the thermal that way. Of course, in real gliding, the pilots can tell which side of the wings are getting lifted and stuff like that, and it just doesn't work, or it does work that way in X-plane, but of course it's really hard to feel that when you are actually sitting in the seat in your office. Now, this is, the soaring part. You can go up as high as you want to now, and then you will fly somewhere else and try to find another thermal. I want to show you how to land real quick before we do the second exercise, the towing. Of course, here's the airfield, and if I just dive down, you see airspeed is increasing. People always think that soaring is a very silent thing, but it can be very loud, as you can hear. See, I'm getting a lot of air rushing. Now, one thing they really make strong in these gliders is the speed brake. And I'm going to pull my thrust lever back to idle, so to say, even though I don't have an engine. Pull that back. You can hear that. See the blue lever come out. And now look at the angle I can do diving down without really building excessive airspeed. I'm going down like 30 degrees, and this is basically like the space shuttle going down. Another way to lose altitude, let me retract the speed brake, is to enter a side slip. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing the right rudder in all the way. I'm keeping my wings level, and you can see that string is really pointing to the side, which means the air is now coming from the side, and this is also a very effective way to spoil energy. You can see my total energy meter there's being pegged at 4, -5 meters per second without me gaining much airspeed. And that is also an effective way to lose altitude. Now, as you come into land, you want to land gliders on the grass mostly. It's better for, when you scrape a wing. So that's what we're going to do. And you want to fly them into a pattern where you are about 500 meters or 500 feet above the runway. It was at 1400, so that would be 1900. You want to be about half a mile away. So here's the threshold. And I'm at 2100 now, so I'm getting into my position right about here. Retracting the speed brake, flying downwind. Now this is a matter of really just getting some, practice with it. But you want to fly ahead for a few seconds. Then depending on the wind, we do have a fairly strong wind from the north. You want to turn base. And when you turn a glider, always make sure that you use your rudder to keep that string centered. They really have strong adverse yaw, which means if you just yank over the aileron, it will actually swing the nose in the other way. So I'm coming around now, stay at about 100 kilometers per hour, and then I'm going to land to the right side of the runway here. And then as you get onto final, you see I'm really high, but fear not, I'm just going to pull out the speed brake a little bit, and you see you can easily maintain whatever glide you want to maintain. And if you find out you're coming too low, just dump in that speed brake, pull up the nose a little bit, and you can glide. Well, with this glider, it really floats forever. So, but we don't want to float forever, so we're going back down here, getting close over the ground, and I'm pushing in the speed brake now, and now you can see I'm just over the ground here, losing speed ever so slowly and touching down. Here we go, keeping the wings level, offsetting the wind from the right with the rudder a little bit. And now I pull back again on my brake, and you can see this slows down. Turn this thing off, and it tips onto the ground. Okay, that was part one. Now we're going to do another part. I'm going to demonstrate how to do the winch start, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do some ridge lift soaring. For that, I'm going to change to another airfield, and I found another one here not too far. It's called ED05 unter Wössen, and I'm going to runway 06 here, and I'm going to change the glider start from tow plane start to winch launch. And I'm going to change the weather. I want to get rid of the cumulus here because I want to show you how to do the ridge lift soaring. And I don't want to get any thermals helping me getting in the way, so to say. So let's start the new flight. It shouldn't take too long, really. And I have my thrust lever at idle, which will now coincide with the position that we initialize in with the speed brakes and the wheel brakes really set. Now you can see there's no plane ahead of me. The wind is coming from the left here, so we'll need to offset for that a little bit. And there's just that cable that you can see, very thin line stretching ahead. So I'm going to maintain a speed of under 150 kilometers per hour. That's important. Just over 100 is good for the winch launch. And you will see, let's get going. Put in the brakes. The nose gets pulled up a little bit. There we go. Once we're at the green arc, we can lift, and now pull back. You can see you can pull back pretty good to stay at that 100 kilometer per hour. And I'm moving my view down a little bit. offset a little to the left here because the wind is coming from the left. We want the cable to fall onto the airport and not somewhere in the forest. And you can see as I'm reaching the top of my toe, it's getting harder and harder to pull back. The speed is coming up again and again, and eventually I just hit space right here, disconnect, and here I am. Okay, now you see I'm flying towards 30 degrees, so the wind is coming from that lake back there, and I'm going to turn back because there's a mountain right next to that airfield that we took off from down there that we can use to demonstrate the lift. I'm going to turn on the audio again. And here it is. I'm flying directly towards the west now. Well, almost. You can see 240, 250. So the wind is coming from my right. And as I get over the slope, you can see the wind is pushing from the right. It's getting pushed up on the mountain. And here we are. Excellent ridge lift conditions. Now you can see I never set up any turbulence. It is getting a little turbulent here because the wind is getting pushed up the mountain, of course. X-Plane does model this. And I'm going to demonstrate one of the dangers of flying in the mountains. And that is, of course, getting onto the lee side of the mountain. And that's where the wind is rushing down behind it. Now you can see I'm almost here to the top. Let's fly over those peaks and let's see what's going on the other side. We're just about clearing those trees. And oh, whoa, look at this. See, I'm just getting over those over here. But you can see the wind is really rushing down on this side, and it's dragging my glider with it. And not only that, I'm also getting considerable turbulence here on this side of the mountain. So stay away from those sides that are away from the wind, because you will get caught in the turbulence behind the mountains and also in the downdraft that follows the slope. Now, a good way to always get yourself out of trouble, of course, is cheating with the map. And you can click on this symbol to find your plane. And if you click on the plane, you can always give yourself a little altitude to help you out, or you can grab your plane and move it somewhere else to get out of trouble. And especially if you're starting out with gliders and you're getting frustrated because you're, approaching some forest and can't get out, just cheat, use the map. Remember, the most important thing is having fun. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this little introduction to glider flying. I know that there are still some things to be done to get them even closer to real gliders, but I think for now, it's flying gliders is a good way to enjoy the views and enjoy soaring more or less silently.